In 1309, the Knights Hospitaller arrived here and conquered the island of Rhodes. And the first thing they did was to build fortifications, because they knew there was a bad enemy out there looking to get them. And they knew how to build fortresses because of their experience from the Holy Land. But here they took inspiration from somewhere else, from Constantinople, a huge wall surrounding that city. They wanted to build something special here, something big. And I believe they succeeded. Let's check it out. Huge walls here surrounding this beautiful city. The fortifications are very impressive, and they had to be because of the enemy. And in 1480, Mehmed II, the Sultan, a bad guy, arrived here with 100,000 men. And yes, he was a very bad guy, cruel man. But I guess if you wanted to remain Sultan in the Ottoman Empire, there was no way to be a nice guy. You had to be pretty cruel and vicious. And all of them were. You would not remain Sultan long if you weren't. And he came here with 100,000 men, and they were like 3,000 defenders. And I guess since he had conquered Constantinople, he thought this would be achievable for sure. But the 3,000 men, against all odds, were able to repel the enemy. And the Grand Master himself killed dozens of men. He was a huge inspiration to his men and became a hero throughout Europe. But the knights knew that the Ottomans would return, and they would return with even more men, with even stronger convictions. So they continued to work on the fortifications here, building them even stronger, wider walls. And in 1522, the Ottomans came back, and this time was a little bit different. Enemy had to come down here, and get through this area would be a killing zone. Tens of thousands of people died during the battle going on here in 1522. Then they had to go up there. And they didn't always know what was behind the walls in front of them. Could be more walls, more layers of defense. But they came here with a plan. They had learned from their mistakes. One of the things they did was to build tunnels underneath and creating mines below the walls and then blowing them up, hoping that the wall would collapse. And that happened on several occasions. And it was a very difficult task for the knights to repel the Ottomans when they came in the thousands, wild by excitement when they saw what had happened to the wall. But they kept their stand for about 6 months, but eventually it would prove too hard for the knights to defend the city. And the walls just keep going. And it's possible to go up there. So later today, I'll buy a ticket and you can walk on the walls up there. It's going to be interesting. And this here was built after 1480. This wall was not here in 1480, making it even harder for the attackers to come. Had to pass through here, making it hard for their cannons to get a good aim. And the walls just keep on going. The knights came from many different countries, so they had to organize themselves according to the language. So in one location you had knights who spoke English, and in another location knights who spoke Spanish, French and so forth. So in that way they were able to communicate with the knight standing next to you fighting. That would be important. You can't use sign language in a situation like this. You have to be able to talk to your fellow knights. This medieval city is alive and well. People still live here. It's the biggest medieval city in Europe. Where still lots of people live. So genuine. And if you want to see it, you have to be up early. Because later on today, it's going to be lots of tourists. Hordes of tourists, even worse than the Ottomans. Those tourists really make my holiday a challenge. I just want them to leave, creating hell for me while they're traveling. But if you're up early, that's a way to avoid them. Of course, it would be cool to just walk into the houses, check them out. But I can't really do that. I can't just walk into people's houses. But when you see the door is half open, it's tempting just to go in there, check it out. Some genuine Greek people. And you see cats everywhere here in the city. Tourists seem to love the cats. If you see like 20 tourists standing, smiling, laughing, there's a cat around, so they can take the photo of the cat. Especially ladies seems to be very interested in taking photos of the cats. But it's a good thing we have all these cats to take care of the rats and mice. It was good to see cats. And these streets, unchanged for hundreds of years. People live here and look at the old doors. You can hear some radio on in there. I just walk in. Someone's coming out, but I can't go in there. I can't. It would be cool. A genuine Greek life in there. Definitely beautiful streets here in the city. And you want to be up early. Everything is better in the morning. Now we're going to see the Grand Master's Palace. It's one of the big attractions here in the city. It's been heavily restored, reconstructed basically, by the Italians when they were here in the early 1900s. And the guy who restored the palace, he was very keen on doing a great job because Benito Mussolini was going to come here and see the palace. And Benito Mussolini really into castles and things like that. But unfortunately the Second World War broke out and he was never able to see the palace, but we are able to see it. Passing through the main shopping street on our way to the Grand Master's Palace. And so few tourists at this time of day, but they're going to show up. There's going to be lots of business going on here today. This is what is most popular here on Rhodes, it seems. Going to the beach and go shopping. And some people go and see the walls. And the Grand Master's Palace for sure is quite popular, but I think too many people spend too much time on the beach. Here we have the palace. Too much time on the beach and maybe too much time shopping. It's tempting, there's a lot of cool things to buy, but maybe they should focus a little bit more on history of the island. Imagine all those people, those knights, dying to defend this city. And we need to keep the stories alive. And what happened to the Grand Master's Palace, which we see here, is that during the siege of 1522 there were a lot of explosives involved. And after the siege, the Ottomans stored those explosives in a place they shouldn't store them. And then a few hundred years later, the whole thing exploded. That's what happens with explosives eventually. And that caused the Grand Master's Palace, which was near the storage, to basically explode as well. But it has been restored by the Italians. So I paid €3 to walk on these walls, and very impressive. You can imagine how difficult it must have been for the Ottomans to breach these fortifications. But what were they doing here in the first place? Why did they come here? The knights had a wonderful little knight paradise here, on the beautiful island of Rhodes. And all they wanted was to be left alone. But that was not to be. 150,000 men came here and created hell on earth. But at least the knights fought bravely. They showed They were true knights. I come at the end of the trail, and that hike on those walls was really incredible. So wide. So much more impressive than I thought it would be. And I have great news. Tomorrow, lots of people. And I have great news. Tomorrow, in the old town, lots of people are going to show up to show their respect, to pay tribute to the knights. It seems I'm not the only one with a soft spot for these heroes of the past. So tomorrow we're going to check it out. And so far I have not seen anyone of the people that are supposed to show up here today and honor the knights. It's still early on, so I guess they could show. And it's kind of sad to think about, really. All the people walking around doing shopping who have no idea what happened here in the past. And I guess one of the reasons is that in school today people are not taught about history anymore, basically. Very little. A lot of young people don't even know when the First World War started. And certainly not anything about what happened here during the Middle Ages. I'm not really sure if this is a reenactment from the Middle Ages or if this is just some local ladies. Couldn't tell, but I think it's possibly just some local ladies showed up here to see the medieval reenactment. And this guy here, he knows the value of reading history for the kids. He's got a pretty big book there, thick book, filled with information about what happened here. And telling the kids about horrible events, I'm sure. And the bad people came here in 1522. This is good to see. An Ottoman has been captured. That's good to see. Yeah, they're gonna take care of this guy. What an asshole. What a piece of shit this guy is. Good thing to see. You're gonna take care of him. Just execute him immediately. I don't even care if it's real. I just want this guy gone.